Sri Aurobindo goes further. Constantly asserted by human experience and belief since the origin of thought. This truth, now that the necessity of an exclusive preoccupation with the secrets of the material world no longer exists, begins to be justified by newborn forms of scientific research. The increasing evidences of which only the most obvious and outward are established under the name of telepathy with its cognate phenomena cannot long be resisted except by minds shut up in the brilliant shell of the past, by intellects limited in spite of their acuteness through the limitation of their field of experience and inquiry, or by those who confuse enlightenment and reason with the faithful repetition of the formulas left to us from a bygone century and the jealous conservation of dead or dying intellectual dogmas. As I said, in spite of these evidences, there are still empirists today who refuse to accept, as we saw yesterday from Bertrand Russell, that we refuse to believe that there are other faculties. So Sri Aurobindo gives a very drastic judgment on these people who, even when this research has been done, evidences have been brought up, even then they say, oh no, we can't accept. Sometime it might have happened in one case, two cases, three cases, but I have not seen it. Until I see it, I will not accept it. As though in every case, everything that he comes to believe, he has seen himself. But when you argue with him, he says, but I have not seen, honestly, how can I accept God's existence? I have never seen him myself. Oh, this mystic might have seen, that mystic might have seen, Saint Teresa might have seen, Mirabai must have seen here in India. I have not seen. So until I have seen, how can I accept it? He applies now a different criterion of truth and knowledge. Normally, if scientists agree that they have seen, you agree that yes, it must be so. I might not have seen what is a planet beyond my galaxy, but if a scientist says there exists, I begin to accept. Why? Because of whatever prestige he occupies in the world. But when it comes to such beliefs as supraphysical facts and the experiences of supraphysical facts, these facts are being denied by hard-hearted empiricists. And therefore Sri Aurobindo gives epithets for them, that they are denied by those who confuse enlightenment and reason with the faithful repetition of the formulas left to us from the bygone century and the jealous conservation of dead or dying intellectual dogmas. Empiricism is basically a dogma. It simply says physical are the only means of knowledge without proving that physical are the only means of knowledge. You can say this statement only when you have seen other means of knowledge and said that these means are not means of knowledge, then only you can say that physical are the only means of knowledge, which you have not done. What you have done is that physical are the means of knowledge. Fine, it is correct. But the premise is that physical means are the only means of knowledge. So, Sri Aurobindo's conclusion is that this is a very easy refutation of materialism. Now we come back again to where we were. A premise so arbitrary pronounces on itself its own sentence of insufficiency. It can only be maintained by ignoring or explaining away all that vast field of evidence and experience which contradicts it, denying or disparaging noble and useful faculties, active consciously or obscurely, or at worst latent in all human beings, and refusing to investigate supraphysical phenomena except as manifested in relation to matter and its movements and conceived as a subordinate activity of material forces. As soon as we begin to investigate the operations of mind and of supermind in themselves and without the prejudgment that is determined from the beginning to see in them only a subordinate term of matter, we come into contact with a mass of phenomena which escape entirely from the rigid hold, the limiting dogmatism of the materialist formula. The mass of phenomena are available when we discuss and investigate the experiences of the supraphysical. If you see Aurobindo's Savitri, the longest book in Savitri is entitled The Experiences of the Traveler of the Worlds. And there is a store of all the evidences that we get of the supraphysical senses. There is a long travel of Ashwapati in the story, where Ashwapati rises from plane to plane, from matter to subtle matter, then to the life plane, and several layers of the life plane, then to the plane of the mind, and different planes of the mind, and then still higher planes of supermind, and right up to the transcendental. It's a long chain of statements concerning supraphysical experiences. If anybody says, I want to have a storehouse of descriptions of all these supraphysical experiences, Sri Aurobindo has given profusion of these descriptions and accurate descriptions. The entire space and time, which is not this space and time, which is true of the physical world. Even ordinary human beings, all of us, are constantly in the experiences of dreams. And we rarely ask the question, what are the dreams? In the dreams, my eyes are closed. There is no doubt about it. And yet I see different colors in dreams, and vivid colors. By what senses do I see them? If physical senses are the sole means of experience and knowledge, we should ask simple question, by what senses do I see the colors? My physical hearing is closed because if somebody shouts, I cannot hear. But I do dialogue and hear my dialogues in the dream. So my physical awareness is closed, but there is a dialogue going on in my supraphysical experience. I travel, even though I am lying in the bed, I am traveling all around. How do I travel? How do I experience? How can I exchange with people? If you simply analyze only dream experiences which are available to all of us, the premise of materialist is immediately overpassed. The materialist can never explain the dream experiences. Of course, he says they're all after images. But even after images, the theory cannot take us long, because you see in the dreams which you have not seen here in this world. You see different kinds of flowers which are never seen in this world. You have different kinds of perfumes which are not in the physical world. You see figures which you do not see figures here in this world at all. How do I experience them? What is the origin of all this? So as soon as you begin to examine even dream experience, the materialist formula is broken. But when you go into deeper and higher realms, when you can consciously travel, as Aurobindo says, Ashwapati travelled and gives a description of all his travels. It may be that only Ashwapati could do, you and I cannot do. But if one human being can do, scientifically, it has a great value. And if 10 people can do, if not all the people, but 10 people can do, it has still a greater evidence. And if 100 people can do, a greater evidence. So, now this experiences of the supraphysical worlds, if you combine, there have been 4 important domains in the history of the world where supraphysical worlds have been travelled by a number of individuals, not only a few here and there. If you take the whole world history, all religions have produced human beings who have testified to have had experiences which are supraphysical. Whether it was in Egyptian religion, or in Vedic religion, or Chaldean religion, Babylonian religion, wherever, all religions have given evidences of human beings who have had supraphysical experiences. And their experiences can be compared. Now we have got a lot of data about it. In the Veda, for example, there are dialogues of gods and men. We may think they are all imaginary fictions, but that was not the view of Agastya himself, who has written the dialogue. You must ask him, is it merely a fictitious dialogue? He doesn't write it as a fictitious dialogue. It was a real dialogue between him and Indra. He has met Indra, discussed with him, obtained knowledge from him. Similarly, there has been a great deal of occultism in the world, not religions, but occultism. There have been hundreds and thousands of occultists in the history of occultism, and whose experiences are extraordinary experiences. Even today, for example, there are a large number of books written on occultism, although not sufficiently respected, but that is a different matter. The fact is that the lots of books which have been written in theosophical literature, for example, all theosophists believe in occult experiences. And there have been a great deal of literature collected even the last century in the world, in the theosophical movement. All philosophies, even materialists, have been obliged to accept the data of the supraphysical realities. Even though the materialistic philosophy has been obliged to reject it, but reject after taking cognizance of it. They cannot say we have not heard of occult realities at all. So even philosophy is a witness to a large number of supraphysical experiences. And spiritual history, of course, abounds with spiritual experiences which are all supraphysical. All great saints of the world have encountered spiritual reality, and their descriptions are available. So Aurobindo says, as soon as we examine the records of experiences of the mind and of the supermind, the premise of materialism collapses, which says the physical means are the only means of knowledge. Now, having done this, the last sentence of that paragraph. And the moment we recognize, as our enlarging experience compels us to recognize, that there are in the universe knowable realities beyond the range of the senses, and in man powers and faculties which determine rather than are determined by the material organs through which they hold themselves in touch with the world of the senses, that outer shell of our true and complete existences, the premise of materialistic agnosticism disappears. We are ready for a large statement and an ever-developing inquiry. Once we get rid of this basic premise that material senses are the only means of knowledge, then we enter into larger fields of inquiry. The modern man has not yet entered into it because this premise is still lingering. Although that premise is now not being advanced so vehemently as at one time, it was being advanced. In fact, the latest scientists have begun to admit something which they were very, very shy to admit. They do believe and they do recognize that this physical body, which consists of cells and trillions of cells, that these cells are organized, and that are so organized that there is an automatic machinery in it of ensuring that the health of the body is maintained as far as possible. That there are systems by which, if anything goes wrong into the movement of the cells, there is a trigger, automatic, by which repair is immediately attempted and ultimately effected. As it is said, even a wound inflicted anywhere, immediately the white cells of the blood rush up, as if there is a recognition in the very mechanism of the body itself as if there is a recognition itself in the body which is supposed to be unconscious of something to be done and to be repaired. Now these phenomena are now perfectly admitted. And there are brain scientists today who, although they believe that thought is simply a movement of the brain, physical brain, they are now no more so sure. They feel it's a kind of a mystery and a miracle that something else is happening. It is almost like a villager who was under the impression that piston was the cause of the steam, now coming across the fact that actually piston itself is moved by the steam. So